Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of The Progenitor. This is the show where we go over a director's entire filmography, talk about theme, shots, pacing, and give a brief review, all within 30 minutes. So let's get started. So normally, I write out a brief outline of everything that I'm going to be talking about per the film. But this week, I did not have time because I was busy at work. Unfortunately, I have a full-time job, so I wasn't able to do all the notes. So what do I have with me? What I have with me is actually the app called Letterboxd. So I'm going to be looking at the cast and the crew through Letterboxd, which is actually very helpful. And for all of y'all that have been paying attention, we are going over White Squall. This is the next film on Ridley Scott's filmography. And I have to say, it is not bad. It's a pretty good film. Not an A, not a C, probably like a B minus. And it's got a cast of a bunch of young fellas led by the beautiful, and I have to say, this is probably the film where he actually looks his greatest, Jeff Bridges. Now, Jeff Bridges plays the quartermaster, or the skipper, or the leader of the ship, or the captain of the boat. His name is Christopher Skipper Sheldon. And his wife, Dr. Alice Sheldon, is played by Caroline Goodall. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to go through the cast list, and then we'll go to the crew. Normally, it's the other way around, but on Letterboxd, it's kind of cast first, and then you switch the crew. So today we're pretty much improvising. So let's see if we can handle this. So Jeff Bridges, come on. I don't need to talk to you guys about Jeff Bridges, do I? The Big Lebowski, Kingsman. Oh, wait. Kingsman, The Golden Circle, where they go to America, and Channing Tatum's in that one. It's not good. He's also in Iron Man as Obadiah Stane. So he's, Jeff Bridges has definitely played the gamut. And in this film, he plays one of those pretty tough leaders, pretty tough teachers, tough love kind of guy who's always trying to train the young men that are on his boat, train them to be very self-reliant and also learn how to take orders. So his character is very strong, and he's really good in this film. Caroline Goodall, unfortunately, she doesn't have much to do. She saves one guy, which is really cool. She saves Preston, and we'll talk about Preston in a little bit. But Caroline Goodall, she's been in a lot of films. She's in The Hook. You guys remember that Steven Spielberg classic, The Hook? Actually, it's not it's just Hook. And she plays Moira Banning. Now, I don't really remember who that is. Oh, I think that's actually Peter Pan's wife. Anyways, moving on. McCrae, the English teacher on the boat, is played by John Savage. John Savage, everyone knows who that is. Deer Hunter, Thin Red Line. He's also in The Godfather 3. He plays one of the pastors, I believe. Hold on. I'm going to look through this list. Father Andrew Hagen. I haven't seen the third Godfather in a while, but I wonder if he's related to Tom Hagen. Probably. Anyways, now we get to the young folk. We got Scott Wolfe. Now, come on, guys. Party of Five, stud, right? Too bad he didn't really do much after that. I mean, he made a few films. For example, Double Dragon, folks. Come on now. Who doesn't love some Double Dragon? And guess what? He was some gangster, uncredited in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which I love both of those films, although I really haven't seen Double Dragon in a while. But come on, Mark Dacascos. And then there's another kid. So Scott Wolfe plays Chuck Yeague. Jeremy Sisto plays Frank Beaumont. He's kind of like the rich kid. No one likes him, unfortunately, but people learn to respect him. But at first, he's kind of a rich dick. Okay, and then we're going to go into themes in a little bit, so don't worry about it. We're going to get there. But Jeremy Sisto, it's weird. I was just looking at his filmography, and he's been in like 2 Batman animated movies and a bunch of indie films, really. I think the biggest film he was in, other than White Squall, has to be Clueless and Grand Canyon. but he played Batman in Justice League The New Frontier, and then he played Talon in Batman vs. Robin, if any of you guys watch the new DC animated universe. So next up, we got Ryan Felipe? Gotta be Felipe, right? And he plays Gil Martin. Gil Martin is one of the main characters that has a true evolution of character. And as you know, this podcast goes into spoilers. So unfortunately, his character dies at the end in the White Squall. Yeah, he's one of the main characters who dies in the White Squall. But for all of you guys that know him, he's been in a lot of movies, man. Gosford Park, Crash by Paul Haggis, Crimson Tide by Tony Scott. Come on, man. Come on, Crimson Tide. We gotta do Tony Scott sooner or later, because what a great filmmaker, him and his brother. Moving on, we got David Lasher as Robert Marsh. He hasn't really been in much. White Squall is the biggest film on his letterbox. Eric Michael Cole, he plays Dean Preston. Dean Preston kind of starts off as the kind of like the bully, the streetwise kid. And throughout the film, he's got like this attitude, this chip on his shoulder. And you find out he actually doctored his score to get on the boat, to get away from his home, because he's this streetwise kid. And he tries to cheat on one of the tests. Scott, Wolfe, Chuck Geek's character, and Gil Martin, they find out, they stop him, and they start tutoring him. And at the end of the film, you know, he becomes very self-reliant, and his character develops throughout that process. Now, Jason Marsden is Shay Jennings. Shay Jennings is the character that backs up Christopher Skipper Sheldon and is kind of like the first mate of the boat. And Jason Marsden, man, he's got a big filmography, and he was huge in TV in the 2000s. But he was in a Goofy movie, guys. A Goofy movie. And he plays Max Goof. He was also in a bunch of Disney movies, looking at this list. Lion King 2, Simba's Pride? Hold on. He's got to be Kovu. He was Kovu, guys. He was the bad, the guy who's supposed to take over for Scar. Yeah, there you go. Oh, man. And he was also in a Batman movie. So already you got 2 actors that are in Batman movies. So I don't know. Is Ridley Scott one of them Batman fans? Who knows? Next up, you got a Dick. Sorry, that's not his character's name, but he is the dick and the terrible person in this film, named Francis Beaumont, played by David Selby, who is also in a Batman animated film called Batman The Dark Knight Returns Part 1 and Part 2. He was also in Dark Shadows and The Social Network. In the Batman film, The Dark Knight Returns, he actually plays Jim Gordon, and his voice is solid for that role. Now you got a bunch of other character actors, so we're not going to go through everyone. James Rebhorn is an important character. He's only at the very end, and he's presiding over a courtroom that is trying to see if Christopher Skipper Sheldon should turn in his license, because he got his boat in a white squall, pretty much a freak of nature. A white squall is kind of like one of those terrible, terrible storms that no one thinks is real, but unfortunately hits their boat. And I don't remember how many people. I think like 3 or 4 people died in the film, but there were many more. This is actually based on a true story. Not everything in this film happened, but it is based on a true story. And at the end of the movie, they do have a small breakdown of those who passed away and everyone else in between. I mean, not in between, but everyone else that survived, what happened to them. And the time period of this film is actually in the 1960s. So in the film, we kind of witness a scene with the Bay of Pigs, the Cubans, and there are a few snippets of John JFK's speeches going on throughout the film. Now, we're going to go to the credits, and this is like a very short list of credits, not like IMDb or Wikipedia, so we're going to go straight through. Ridley Scott. Everyone knows he's done this. Mimi Polk Gitlin. Now, this is a recurring collaborator at this point, and one of the main reasons is she kind of headed Ridley Scott's production company at the time. So previously, she did Thelma and Louise, 1492, and of course, White Squall. So next up, we also have Rocky Lang. So I'm looking at his letterboxd, and he also produced Tootsie and a TV version of the Titanic that was released in 1996. Dang, man, Catherine Zeta-Jones is in this movie, and I love Catherine Zeta-Jones. So, anyways, let's move on. The writer of the film. Now, there's three people. Todd Robinson. Now, Todd, he actually didn't write that many films either. He did The Last Full Measure, Lonely Hearts, Phantoms. It looks like some kind of submarine movie. And The Outsiders, but it's not The Outsiders that we know. I think it's a TV series because it says 810 minutes. Now, Francis Ford Coppola did not make an 810-minute movie. It might have felt that way, but he did not do that. Charles Geig Jr., so I'm guessing Charles Geig Jr. wrote a memoir, and that's what this film is. So Felix Sutton, probably the same thing. They don't have any other credits, so let's move on. We got editor. Now, this editor, his name is Jerry Hambling. Now, this guy did a lot of good work. I mean, I'm looking at this list. Pink Floyd, The Wall, Midnight Express. So I'm guessing he worked with Alan Parker a bunch. Yes, let's see. Alan Parker. Yep, those two movies are Alan Parker films. He did Evita by Alan Parker. Then he did a lot of Jim Sheridan films like The Boxer and In the Name of the Father. And these are very deliberately paced films, but they get the point across. They're not too slow, but they can be long, like Angel Heart. Angel Heart is almost 2 hours, but what a great movie. Now, what else we got? Hugh Johnson. All right, Hugh Johnson. This appears to be his very first film with Ridley Scott as cinematographer. But it turns out he's going to collaborate with Ridley Scott on the next film, the one we're going to go over next week. So we'll talk about him next week as well. And as I mentioned, we are kind of doing this recurring collaborators. So right now we're looking at Mimi Polk Gitlin and Hugh Johnson. Now we got a composer, Jeff Rona. Let's take a look at him, Jeff Rona. What did he do? He's on and off here, guys. But I did enjoy the score a lot in this film. So let's talk about it. He did The Follow, directed by Wong Kar-wai. This is an 11-minute short film about, it's kind of like a BMW commercial with Clive Owen, and he's doing a bunch of really cool stuff. So he composed that. He composed Exit Wounds with Steven Seagal and DMX. Now, probably not his best work, but I really enjoyed the score in White Squall. And then as I was watching the credits, another name popped up for additional music. Guess who that was? Hans Zimmer. So what do we got right now? We got Hans Zimmer on Black Rain, I believe. And then we got Hans Zimmer. Was that it? Did he do Black Rain? And then, let's see. Oh, he did Thelma and Louise. He did not do 1492. But okay, so they've worked together on 2 films. And Ridley Scott has worked together on 2 films with Vangelis. And then I believe Jerry Goldsmith on 2 films already. So he kind of has a pretty good working on collaboration with his composers. But I think going from this point forward, you're going to see more frequent collaborations with a couple of names. And I'm going to mention them sooner or later, but you're going to see a lot of production design by Arthur Max. You're going to see a lot of editing by Pietro Scalia. and then you're going to see a rotation on the cinematography, but he's tightened it up a bit. He has a select crew of cinematographers, so I believe now we're going to start seeing him solidify and be confident with his collaborators and with his vision and who's going to help him shoot those films. And, that's after G.I. Jane. And after G.I. Jane, we're going into the new Ridley Renaissance or the Scottissance, whatever you want to call it. But anyways, now we're going to go to Wife's Corner. Now, my wife did enjoy this film a lot, and the ending actually choked her up. So I have to say, it was very successful in the way it conjures up emotion. It can be a bit manipulative, but the way this film is shot is so beautiful. The way the boat hits against the waves and the wind is blowing in the sails and you see the seagulls and just the whole environment of this film is just so beautiful, so well shot, and the camaraderie amongst these boys and how they develop throughout the film, it's very well done. And it's kind of what I wanted to see happen in 1492, but that didn't happen in that film. And that film kind of sped through a lot of the relationships, so you don't really feel for any of those characters in 1492. In White Squall, you feel for them. Not all of them, unfortunately, and not even maybe the most important, but you do really get behind the motivations of a lot of these characters. And I think this film is much better than 1492 Conquest of Paradise. Anyways, let's move forward. Like I said, my wife enjoyed the film and she cried. She really liked the guys. So there you go. There are also splashes of humor, which I really enjoyed, and we'll get into that with my favorite shots. But let's go through themes. Now, I didn't write notes on the themes, so we'll just go. We're going to wing it, guys. Empower female characters. Unfortunately, not really. The wife, as I mentioned before, Alice, I believe. Hold on. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I did this. I flipped away. But yes, Alice Sheldon, the wife, she doesn't get much to do, but she does save a life. She is a teacher. She does save the kids from STIs or STDs, whatever you want to call them. And she is a school teacher. She's a science math school teacher on the boat. So there you go. She is empowered, and she's also very, very sexy and brave. Unfortunately, she doesn't make it through the film, but the scenes that she is in, although brief, she has a very strong character and a strong personality that goes along with her husband. Next up, nature space is a hostile and uncontrollable environment. Ding, ding, ding. Yes, they're on the waters again, and this time they get hit by a white squall. And not only that, the waves in this film are much more visceral, and you feel for these boys as they're on the deck or in their quarters, and the boat is rocking, just on normal days as well. And you can tell that, these kids, they are kind of suffering through seasickness. Next up, the only way to survive is to adapt. Yes, this is key in this film. A lot of these characters have to grow up. A lot of these characters join the boat not having a true identity or thought, but they meet friends, they grow up together, they learn from each other. One of the kids, Gil Martin, played by Ryan Felipe, he's afraid to climb, but but near the end of the film, he climbs up, and it's a powerful scene, really. So each character has one of these moments. If they're one of the main boy characters. Age does not mean a thing. This is the case because all these kids, they're probably in their early, not teens, but they're in their late teens, early 20s. They're within that range because they're about to go to college or not yet going to college. It's the summer before college, so it's kind of like that. And they grow together and learn to survive together. Unfortunately, some of the characters don't make it through the squall, but with the teaching of Sheldon Cooper, the skipper, they're able to band together and try their best to survive. So I think that's really important, and I think that's powerful. do not trust rich people. Ding, ding, ding. Yes, this is the case. Because, like I said before, there's a major dick in this movie called Francis Beaumont, played by David Selby. He kind of forces his son, Frank Beaumont, to get on the boat. Although he doesn't even believe in the boat. He thought that he was just sending his son on a boat to chill. And then he sees that all the students and kids have to do menial work. He's like, well, my son doesn't have to do menial work. He's a rich kid. And he's a powerful kid. And there's this party in the middle, maybe in the 2/3 of the film through. There's a party for all the kids, and they're actually chaperoning a group of Scandinavian women or students, female students. And Frank is pulled away from that dinner to have dinner with his dad, Francis, and they get in a huge argument. And Skipper really hates this guy too. So all these people hate the father, and fortunately, Frank Beaumont at the end becomes a very sympathetic character. It's really hard. You have to watch the film, because throughout the film, he's the guy who's wavering between being good and then returning back to his selfish self, and then being part of the group, and then returning to being selfish. And at the end, he really has not a return to selfishness, but being part of a group turn in his character, which I think works very well. Violence don't solve a thing, brains do. When you're in the water, you really have to use your brains, because you can't fight water, so you have to maneuver. And not just that, like I said before, there's this character, his name is Dean Preston, and he's kind of the most aggressive character, and he always gets in fights with Chuck Geig and Gil Martin. But at the end of the day, they realize why he's so angry, because he finds himself to be inferior to them. So they teach him, and they want to train him to be better. And, so they tutor him pretty much secretly, and he grows in his confidence. And instead of being violent, he becomes smart. And I don't want to get into the politics of the thing, but there you go. Happy wife, happy life. Yep. Alice stays with her husband until the bitter end. And unfortunately, she passes on the White Squall. And it says on the closing what is that called? Closing scroll. It says on the closing scroll that Christopher Sheldon, played by Jeff Bridges, never married again. So he was very much in love. Distrust of authority. All the kids distrust Skipper at the beginning, but at the end of the film, they actually grow to respect him a great deal. Instead, Sheldon actually distrusts people like Beaumont, the father. We're going to keep going. Money is coveted. Ding, ding, ding. Yeah, so Francis Beaumont, the father, thinks he can just pay everyone off pretty much. So he's a dick. Forget about him. Moving on. Battle of the Sexes. Not really. Not in this movie. And next theme is do not trust robots and androids. Well, I think Francis Beaumont is kind of a robot because he has no emotions. But moving on, let's get to our favorite shots. Oh my gosh, we gotta go quicker because we're running out of time. 9 minutes, 21 seconds. Gil Martin's intro. This is Ryan Felipe's character. What I like about this is, so he's got like this nervous energy about him, but there's like this heavenly light shining down from above because they're in their quarters underneath the boat, and there's just like this sliver of light that hits him, and it's like a halo around him. And unfortunately, he is kind of the sacrificial lamb, the character who dies but has learned so much. So he actually is the most sympathetic character in the film. 10 minutes, 27 seconds. This is your introduction to El Capitan. This is Sheldon Cooper's entrance, and he is beautiful, holding a cup of coffee, drinking it. At 12 minutes and 14 seconds, this is a beautiful shot of, I believe it's dusk. Is dusk right before nighttime? When is dusk? Let's see. Yeah, dusk is right before nighttime, I'm guessing. And it's just a shot of dusk on the ship. They're all on the ship, but the ship is silhouetted by the sunset. It's beautiful. 12 minutes, 21 seconds, you see the first dive. Someone at night jumps, and it's connected with that shot of dusk. So it's really beautiful. 18 minutes, 51 seconds. During this whole part, everyone's doing menial tasks around the boat. Now, Dean Preston is cleaning the toilet, and right at 18 minutes, 51 seconds, like shit explodes all over him. I don't think he knows how to clean the toilet, so unfortunately, he's got to clean himself as well. At 30 minutes, 51 seconds, you got the Albatross finally taking to the open sea, and it is a beautiful shot of it just traversing those waves. And at 33 minutes, 7 seconds, wind blowing through the sails, and you see a single seagull just gliding right next to it. Beautiful. I love all these shots of the water and the boat fighting against the waves. At 37 minutes, 17 seconds, Preston. What happens is Dean Preston falls overboard because he's trying to grab onto some ropes that fell. And he tries to grab it. He falls in the water. And the waves are really big and the wind is really big. So Allison, the wife, or Alice Sheldon, sorry, the wife, she doesn't jump in, but she grabs a rope ladder, starts climbing down, and she saves him pretty much. She almost falls in, but she saves him, and they both get out of there, and they're fine. At 44 minutes, 37 seconds, this is when they're on leave. They're on the shore right now, and they decide to give Frank Beaumont, the son, a hooker. And at first, there's a lady that's there. And she takes his money. She goes in the back, and the actual hooker comes out, and she's kind of like overweight and older, so he runs off. 49 minutes and 31 seconds. This is the scene where Scott Wolfe's character, Geeg, and what was the other guy's name? Geeg and Gil Martin. They see that Preston is cheating, so they confront him. This particular scene, 49 minutes and 31 seconds, you see him holding the piece of paper that he's cheating with the answers, and Geeg is like looking over his shoulder, and he sees it. So 52 minutes, 8 seconds. It's another shot of the ship and the seagull. Just, another shot. I just love these because the next one is another shot. 54 minutes and 21 seconds. 1 hour, 4 minutes and 46 seconds. They're at this party with the delegate of the Swedish girls or Scandinavian girls that they're hosting. And this is just a beautiful, intimate moment between Captain Sheldon and his wife, Alice. They haven't danced since their wedding, or since he asked for her hand in marriage, and they have a little dance there. At 1 hour, 7 minutes and 25 seconds, Dolphin is shot with a harpoon by Frank Beaumont. Now, this is what I mean about Frank Beaumont's character going from selfish to a sympathetic character. Right now, he's dropped back to a selfish state where he's only looking out for his enjoyment. He finds a harpoon gun in the middle of the film, and then at this very moment, he thinks it would be the best time to shoot the harpoon because they just rode up next to a bunch of dolphins, and the dolphins are playing with him. It's a perfect shot. Boom! He shoots it, and unfortunately, it dies. And this is what gets him sent home. So he's not there the whole film. So yeah, if you want more understanding of the film, please make sure to watch it. It's a breezy 2 hours. It's not a hard watch. An hour, 22 minutes and 48 seconds, you have a ceiling fan. Now, I kind of want to go back because I think there's definitely a ceiling fan at that party when the captain and the wife dance. I'm very, very sure there's one there. And I'm pretty sure there's one with a fat hooker. So I'm going to have to revisit that, but that's for you guys' information. At 1 hour, 33 minutes and 40 seconds, the white squall hits. And these are humongous waves. My wife was like, wait, how did they do that? There's multiple ways the filmmakers could do this, but I don't want to pontificate or give you information about something I didn't really research, but I'm guessing they used models, especially for the next shot. 1 hour, 38 minutes and 4 seconds. The ship is horizontal in the water getting trashed by waves. And finally, 2 hours, 4 minutes, and 5 seconds. Throughout the film, at the beginning of the film, there is a bell that everyone rings when they're doing work together and when they're together as a team or when they eat breakfast. Any event that happens, they're ringing this bell. And Captain Sheldon at this time, he feels guilty. He's in the middle of the courtroom. He's being questioned by naval officers whether he can still hold his license to captain a boat, and he's falling apart. And this is another scene where Frank Beaumont, the son, actually lifts up and stops being selfish because he rings the bell, and it snaps Sheldon out of it, and he realizes he is being selfish. He's not watching out for these boys anymore. So Frank Beaumont rings the bell, and everyone gets together. And guess what? The Captain Sheldon, is able to keep his license. And the end credits basically say they don't know if he ever rode on the waters ever again. For sure, he didn't remarry per the end scroll, but I think Chuck Geek has a great line where he kind of says, if Captain Sheldon was to ride again, we would all be there by his side. And I think that's a powerful message. And this film is a very good sort of B minus film. It's definitely worth watching for, I wouldn't say the camaraderie, but the camaraderie is there. But just for the boat scenes and the waves and the way they filmed everything, you feel the nature around them. And these were the things that were solely missing from 1492. These are the things that could have lifted that film up tremendously. And unfortunately, they went a different route. But I'm glad they did this in this film. What I would have liked to see a little more is definitely a lot more scenes with the wife, pretty much, and establishing more of the characters, maybe cutting out some of the more menial students or whatnot. But overall, I really enjoyed the film. Now, next up, we got G.I. Jane, guys. Demi Moore. I don't know if this is kind of a comeback or what, but we have G.I. Jane, and let's see what it's on. It looks like you got to spend money, guys. So, hey, I bought it. $14.99 iTunes, if you're lucky. If you're even more lucky, they have $4.99 on sale, but I don't think that's going on right now. So if you got to pick it up, guys, I'd probably go on Amazon or eBay, see if they got a Blu-ray going or a DVD. But yeah. Or if you have Netflix DVD, this would be a perfect addition. But anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week for the next film, G.I. Jane. Get ready.